This episode is brought to you by 28mobile.com. Be sure to check them out for all your unlocked smartphone purchasing needs, including the OnePlus One. Hey, what's up everyone? It's Justin here, and today I'm very excited to bring to you the review of the OnePlus One. So as you may know, lately there has been a ton of social media hype surrounding this device. And with the company's mantra to the consumer being never settle, their mission is to provide a flagship level smartphone with flagship specs all around at a budget price to consumers, and what they call the 2014 flagship killer. They have set out to understand an everyday user's root problems seen on flagship devices currently out there, and by making the best product decisions in their opinion, they feel that they have the perfect device for the everyday consumer. Not only on the price tag, but the performance, specs, and features of the OnePlus One. The device on the spec sheet features a Snapdragon 801 processor that is 2.5 GHz and quad-core with a Adreno 330 GPU, 3 gigs of RAM, as well as a 5.5-inch Full HD display at a 401 ppi. You have also got a 13 megapixel camera that is capable of recording 4K video, with the most impressive part being this device comes in at just $300 for the 16GB model and $350 for the 64GB model. Though at its current state, I wish you luck on coming across one, as it is currently just an invite-only system in order to purchase the OnePlus One. The overall hardware of this device is absolutely beautiful. It comes in at just 8.9mm thick and weighs in at 162 grams, and it comes in two different colors currently. This is the silk white 16GB model, but it also comes in a 64GB sandstone black, which I have heard quite a bit of praise about. One great thing about the design though is that the back piece can be completely removed to suit your personality, as they do roll out some other back covers including a wood design, the bamboo design, and hopefully more to come in the future. And by the design of the back piece running along the sides of the device, once you change up the back piece, it will pretty much completely change the overall personality and feel of your OnePlus One. I was also a huge fan of the way the OnePlus was built. Durability never felt like it was going to be an issue or anything, and that is always extremely important. On the front, you'll also notice the display is slightly raised with a nice silver trim going around it, kind of giving a premium look and feel, although it is most likely plastic. Both of which are very well placed and feel extremely natural in the hand. As most of us are used to, the volume rocker is located on the left side with the SIM card slot and the power button on the right side. On the bottom, of course, you will find your micro USB port and dual bottom-facing speakers, which by the way do sound pretty bad, and one of the three microphones you will find on this device, one of them located on the bottom, one of them on the top, and one next to the camera. On the top of the device, you will find your 3.5mm headphone jack, and another one of the three microphones on this device. As you remove the back cover, which is not easy by the way, you will find your 3100 mAh battery, which surprisingly is actually glued to the back of the device, so you aren't able to replace them or swap them out at any time. So I guess the purpose of the back covers being removable is just so you could swap out the design of your back. So now let's talk about the display. The OnePlus One features a 5.5-inch JDI Full HD 1920x1080 resolution 401 ppi display. And I'm sure some people out there will find the 5.5-inch form factor to be pushing it. And I gotta say, the device definitely feels rather large in the hand, but I've actually become quite a big fan of it. Although I would wish that the bezels and the lip on the top and bottom were a little bit smaller. In terms of a full HD resolution being put onto a 5.5-inch display, I really had no problem with it at all. I found everything to be very crisp, the colors to be jumping out very nicely, and although certain people did complain about a yellowing screen near the bottom, I didn't notice any of those issues whatsoever in my 3 weeks with this device. When viewing videos on this device, I actually really enjoyed the 5.5-inch form factor, and it did a great job in terms of the clarity and the color representation, so really no complaints there and isn't much to say about that. Gaming with this device is also a very nice experience. Like I mentioned, the 5.5-inch form factor is great for media consumption and gaming, as it does give you a lot of screen real estate. As you would expect out of a Snapdragon 801 processor clocked in at 2.5 GHz with 3 gigs of RAM and an Adreno 330 GPU, this device performs very well in even the graphic intensive games, so you really should have no issues there. Everyday tasks and other things you may want to throw at it, the OnePlus One handled it all very well. So now that we have talked about the hardware, let's talk a little bit about the software, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting. The OnePlus One runs Android 4.4.2 KitKat with a custom version of CyanogenMod 11S. And this was actually my first experience with CyanogenMod, and what I would try to describe it as is stock Android on steroids. You have many more customizable features, it seems, and you are able to change up the visual look and just a little bit more freedom, but still being able to enjoy the look and feel of stock Android. Since the initial release of this device, OnePlus has also been constantly pushing out updates for the OnePlus One of CyanogenMod like they had promised, so that's always great to see. I would simply say that this device is just the most responsive I have ever used, whether it is CyanogenMod or it is the responsiveness of the touchscreen on the OnePlus One, which I have actually heard people talk about. It is hands down the smoothest and most responsive, snappy phone I have ever tried out. And at first I did find CyanogenMod a little bit boring, but I have become a huge fan of it. As you scroll through your app drawer and your home menu, the device just feels so fast for some reason, and I actually want to install CyanogenMod on more of my devices now. As you hold on the home, you're able to go to Google Now from anywhere. That is seen on pretty much every device now, and Google Now is always a great tool. I'm sure a lot of people use that, and you also have your quick access apps located on the menu button on the right side of it, but the buttons can always be configurable, and there's also quite a few gestures of the OnePlus One. By double tapping on the sleeping screen, it will wake up the device, like we see on LG and HTC devices now. And there are also quite a few gestures that allow you to draw a circle on the display and bring up the camera, or draw a V and it'll turn on the torch. But there were people complaining about how responsive it was, so I decided to turn it off so it won't accidentally trigger it and possibly drain my battery life. Moving on to the notification tab, I actually really like the one on CyanogenMod. Not only does it look like stock Android, but as you slide it down and tap on the top right corner, it will take you to your notification tab, and it isn't completely empty. You still have some of your quick toggle settings located there, and of course you can always configure those as well. The settings tab is also just like stock Android, so you kind of get the scheme here, and it has a nice black and white look to it. Going back to the idea of customizability, the great thing about running a rooted device like CyanogenMod is that it allows you to pretty much change up the whole look and feel of the device at any given time. You're able to customize your overall interface, your button layout, and another great thing about the OnePlus One is that you actually have on-screen and touch capacitive buttons, but one major issue is that those touch capacitive buttons, even when illuminated, you pretty much can't see them. And here I'm just going to take you over to the theme showcase just to give you an idea of some of the options you have. So you can have different themes such as the flat look, you even have an Android L kind of look, or even a TouchWiz look, HTC Sense, just so many things, and they're actually pretty cheap, a couple dollars here and there, and you can completely change the feel of your device. But I have to say that CyanogenMod is probably my favorite software that I have tried on any Android device so far. I'm a huge fan of it. The camera on the OnePlus One is also very impressive. Even certain devices priced in at more than double the cost of the OnePlus cannot match up to this camera. It features a 13 megapixel camera with Sony Exmor IMX214 lenses, a 6-element lens in order to avoid distortion and color aberration, dual LED flash, an f2.0 aperture, and a front-facing camera that is 5 megapixels. You can also record 4K video at 2 different codecs and 720p video at 120 frames per second for slow motion. And when you take a look at the camera app of CyanogenMod, it is also very simple to navigate. There really isn't much getting in your way. By sliding through, it will take you through some of the filters. I have it set to auto, and in your settings, you still have the option to change your exposure, your white balance for example, switch to different cameras, the flash, and within the camera, you can set your size, your quality percentage in case you want to save some space, ISO, focus mode, touch duration, and in the video options you actually have the option to change the codec of the video even, and of course the quality settings. And I also really like the transparent look even in these settings. So that was just a quick look at the camera app. Let's take a look at some actual pictures I took. So you can see that the OnePlus One and its 13 megapixel camera was able to capture an immense amount of details. In certain images I found that compared to other devices it did overexpose it a little bit, and it had a little bit of trouble in sunset images, but you can see here that these are absolutely impressive, and you always got to remind yourself that this phone comes in at just $300. The 5 megapixel front facing camera was also one of the best I have seen. It was able to do a very nice color balance, skin tone, and detail of course. Taking a look at the 4K UHD video test at H.264 codec, you will see that it was able to capture a great amount of detail, and you really cannot complain about this at all. It is definitely a treat that a device at this price point is not only able to capture some great photos at 13 megapixels, but even 4K video. So up to now in this review, I've said so many great things about the OnePlus One, and the battery is just another one of them. It features a 3100 mAh battery, which is absolutely massive even compared to other flagships that are competing with this device at double the price point today. Really, the only complaint I had about it is the fact that you are able to remove the back and they show you the shiny red battery, however you aren't able to replace it or remove it as it is glued down to the device. At the same time though, I can't see anybody wanting to always be swapping out the battery, as the back piece is an absolute pain to be taking off, as it isn't meant to be taken off that often. But it would be nice to very easily be able to swap out the battery in case you need to down the road. On moderate use, I was able to get more than 2 days on this device, and on heavy use, I was able to get through just about 2 days, so the battery is probably one of the best I've tested. So now it's time to conclude on my thoughts of the OnePlus One, and as you can probably tell from this review, I've had an absolute blast using this device. And it is extremely hard to believe that all of those things that I had mentioned, including the flagship specs, the 13 megapixel camera capable of recording 4K video, a 5.5-inch display, the fact that the device runs CyanogenMod 11, and the very well thought out design, the device itself comes in at just $300 for the 16 gig model and $349 for the 64 gig model. I will even go as far as to say that this device is worth far beyond that. And putting aside the current PR nightmare and terrible distribution of the OnePlus One, they have a great product in front of them, and if you would like to purchase it now without having to try and obtain an invite, you can go ahead and check out 28mobile.com. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for some future videos, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.